Hello, and either welcome back if you've watched a couple of videos already, or welcome for the first time if you're finding this because I tagged CB500X. I'm Foto, I ride a Moto, and today I'm going to be going over the 6 reasons that I bought this specific bike. And before we do that, I just want to say that after I talk about the bike, we're going to go over a photography technique that I like and that I learned a long time ago, and it can help people be better photographers. Now, as we get into this, I want to say I don't know how many times I now have had to start this video over, and it's frustrating. And I'm kind of hot, and I'd rather not have to do it again, but I'm going to get it done, and hopefully in one shot. So here we go. I'm what the industry calls a returning rider. I rode a motorcycle many years ago. I stopped for a while. That's a different story. And now I've come back. When I came back, I knew that things had changed a lot. Bikes were way different. Cars were different on the road. They're bigger, better, stronger, faster. Everything had changed, and so I needed to do some research. And so I watched every YouTube video I could find on every bike I was interested in. I found articles online. I talked to maybe 2 people. Most of it was just me looking things up. It's a pandemic. We're locked inside. And so in the process of looking up bikes, I identified 6 priorities that I had that the bike that I chose would have to fit. Those were the price, the daily use case, how I would use the bike every day, the reliability of the bike, the repairability of the bike, the capability of the bike, and its physical size / engine displacement. The bike that I bought, this 2020 Honda CB500X, had a list price at the time of $6,999, and I got a little bit of a discount on that because it was the end of the model year that I was buying, and the 21s were coming out. But after dealer fees, setup fees, dealer transport fees, regular transport fees, tax, title, all the goodies, I walked out the door with the bike for just under $9,500, which was perfect because I was looking for a sub 10K bike. This bike checked the box. A note about price though and budgeting is that part of the reason I wanted sub 10K is that I wanted to make sure I had money left over for gear. I think about budgeting for gear and a bike the same as I think about tipping and eating out. If you can't afford to do it right and do it well, then you shouldn't have been going out in the first place. So in my research and in my imagination before I bought the bike, I had thought I'd be an 80-20 rider. 80% city, commuting, in town, 20% other. 20% adventurizing around South Florida, going off-road, road trips, those sorts of things. In reality, after 4,500 miles plus at this point, the reality is 95% city riding and commuting day to day, and then 5% other. I've been out there a few times, but that's not what I primarily use the bike for. In this, the CB500X, CB is for city bike. It's been perfect. And we can talk about capability in that section later. I wanted a bike that I could just put my gear on every day, get on the bike and go without thought or worry if it would start. I like to repair things. I like to use my hands, but with my bike, I want to ride it and then learn how to tinker on it a little bit at a time. Honda's been making motorcycles for a really long time. Honda has the most produced vehicle in the world ever, and it's a motorcycle, and it's the Super Cub 125. They started making it in 1958. As of 2018, they built over 100 million of these bikes, and they're still making and selling it today. Honda is just a super reliable bike. I wanted a bike that was simple to work on when I needed to, and it was simple enough it wouldn't cost me a lot of money to fix. But also it's a Honda, so it's cheap to fix because the parts are everywhere. Honda has a huge dealer network and dealer support. If I need to buy parts, I can find them easily online for cheap. Also in that, the bike is super simple, and so everything comes off real easy. The whole engine's right there. Everything is easy to get to. There are no unique fasteners. It's all simple metric. This bike is easy to work on and easy to repair. I like to camp, I like to go backpacking, I like to go hiking, and most of these things happen away from the city and down undeveloped roads. And so I wanted a motorcycle that, should I wish, I could take it. I drive a Subaru, an all-wheel drive car, all the time for that same reason. The bike really is a city bike. It's geared for city riding, and in that it excels. It's light, it's nimble, it's pretty easy to shift. It really is a commuter's dream bike. You sit up high because it's an ADV with upright seating position, which means you can see over other cars and they can see you too. So CB500, and then they throw this X on the end. And the X, I think, is aspirational. This is not an ADV bike. It may look a little bit like one, but it's just not. Cast aluminum wheels, the travel suspension is too long, too soft, it doesn't damp, the seat is super cushy. This really is a commuting bike. However, all those aspirational parts of the bike do mean that it can get you out there and get you back, surprisingly. Let me throw in this little clip from about a month after I bought the bike, and we'll talk about it after. In that, let's just from the top state that I was going too fast. I wasn't looking far enough ahead. I was brand new to dirt riding. When I realized that I'm getting into trouble, all I decided to do is take my hand off the throttle and ride it out and hope for the best. The laugh at the end is because I thought the bike was going down and it didn't. It soaked up those whoops just really well, those holes. They're a lot bigger than they look when I rewatch the video. But this city bike, with aspirations of being a big ADV dream, it did it just fine. It got through it with no complaints, and I'm just wholly surprised. So this bike is capable. It's built for the city, but it can get you there and get you back. I was looking for a Goldilocks bike. When I first started looking, I was looking at the 300cc class of bikes because most of those were a smaller bike that I thought would be good for how I was going to use the bike. And the more I thought about it, the more I knew I'd need a bigger bike. I didn't want a single cylinder, and I wanted to be able to go down the freeway from time to time. As I started looking at the 6, 7, 8, 9cc bikes, they started getting pretty big, pretty heavy, and way more expensive. So the bigger bikes just started taking themselves out of my list, out of my criteria. I wanted a bike that I could handle easily, that didn't have too much power for me to handle. In this, the CB500X, it was a Goldilocks bike. It wasn't too big, it wasn't too small, it was perfect. This bike comes in at just shy of 400 pounds, about 178 kilograms. That video of me riding down the road, hitting those potholes, the bike just kind of danced, which was nice because it wasn't too heavy. It didn't dive into the holes, and it didn't lose control because it was too light. So the size of the bike is perfect for me. in the way of the engine, it's pretty torquey. The gears could be a little longer, but around town, I think it's just the right amount of power because you can full throttle and it's not gonna get away from you in traffic. And my camera shut down because of course it did. It overheated. Honestly, I don't know where I was, so we'll just say those were my 6 points. That's why I bought the bike. It was a Goldilocks bike in each of those 6 categories, and I'm incredibly happy with the purchase. It is a jack of all trades bike, master of none. It straddles a bunch of different categories. So if you are looking for a focused machine and you know what you want, then go get that bike. But if you don't know, I might recommend this one. It will let you know if you want an ADV bike or if you want a street bike or a cruiser. It straddles enough of the categories that in riding it, I think you'll figure out what you actually want. But I don't think it's perfect. I think it straddles too many categories. But in all of those categories, it's good enough, which is good enough for me. That's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you want to hang around for some photography technique info, then we're going to talk about Sunny 16, a metering technique that I've used for a long time and I really like. Otherwise, ta. So I think first my thoughts on this is that we are increasingly relying on automated technologies to make our lives more efficient and easier, and photography is no different. These automations make everything easier, and I think that some people would argue better. I worry that we are using shortcuts with technology instead of actually learning the thing and getting better at the thing. And photography is becoming ever more easy and prevalent. It used to be that film was expensive, you didn't get many shots, you needed a photographer. Now everybody is a photographer. When it comes to cameras, I worry that we have wholly removed the need to understand the interplay of how a camera works in light. And we have handed over our creative control to automation. Yes, don't get me wrong, digital cameras are amazing. The algorithms that they use for automatic exposures and HDR and all these what were difficult situations are now easy to capture because of cameras automation. However, have we handed our creative control over to the algorithms? Have you ever taken a photo that just didn't look quite right, not what you wanted? I have, many times. And so enter photography techniques, shortcuts to learning like the one I want to talk about right now. And this will hopefully be brief. I'm just going to give it an overview, and then you can go on the internet and there's a wealth of information because yay, technology. So Sunny 16 is this technique. It's shorthand for the settings of a camera to get a perfect exposure on a day like today. You look behind me and there is hard, bright light, hard shadows. And so Sunny 16 is perfect for this situation. All cameras with manual settings have 3 main settings or methods of control. So stop me if you've heard these before, but you have aperture or f-stop, shutter speed, and film speed or ISO on digital cameras. In the Sunny 16 scenario, we hinge our settings around a locked aperture or f-stop of 16. Our shutter speed we set to whatever we set our film speed to. So if we set the film speed to 100, which would be a good option with hard bright light like this, if we set the film speed to 100, we set the shutter speed to 100. If we set the shutter speed to 200, we should set the film speed to 200. Those two need to be locked together, and you can change them up and down, though I recommend keeping your film speed the smallest number possible. But again, we're talking about bright light. There is only too much light. So film sensitivity, take it way down, 100, 200. And so now our settings are 100 film speed, 100 shutter speed, and 16 on the aperture. And voila, we have perfect exposure. And that's it. That's Sunny 16. It's super easy. If you have a camera that has manual control, I strongly recommend that you try this technique as a starting point. Once you have a composition that you like, a framing, you've got a setting, start with these settings and then start changing one of the 3 main settings at a time, up and down. Play with it a little bit, and then if you have a digital camera, look at those images and look at how they differ. Keep your aperture the same, but change your film speed and your shutter speed. Keep your film speed the same, but change your aperture. This photo that I'm going to put up here is a result of me looking at a Sunny 16 shot and me thinking there was just too many shadows. It was too dark. I liked the shot and I wanted a different exposure. So I changed my settings. I wanted some depth of field, and so I took my aperture from 16 to 2.8. I took it all the way the other way, wide open. And so because of that, I also had to change my shutter speed. Start with Sunny 16, give it a shot, and then go out and play with your settings. Take a series of shots up and down and see how exposure changes. I promise your photographs will become better as you become better at understanding the interplay between how a camera functions and light. And Sunny 16.